I guess it's me. I am the host of today's show, and let's see, I got a pin. I am the host of today's show, and I want to welcome everyone to the best streaming gear and how to use it. As you saw, we have a lot of great sponsors for today's show, a lot of great information that's going to be coming out today. And without further ado, I want to bring you up to simplifying a single person live stream. Do you want stellar results without employing a full production staff? Stephen Heywood from PTZOptics will take you through a tour of his studio, showing some tips, tricks, and software for the right tools to get the job done. The prize after this portion of the webinar is PTZOptics, the PT30X-NDI-GY camera. So with that, Stephen, take it away.
Thanks, Anthony. It's great to be here, guys. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how to do this a little bit better when you're by yourself. You know, a lot of times we see this shot that I have right now, which is a static headshot. And, you know, it kind of gets old and it gets stuffy and it gets, you know, we see it all the time. We see it in webinars. We see it in broadcasts that are out there. And one of the things that I wanted to try to do today is show you about a product that we make called the Simple Track 2 from Huddlecam. And this, as you can see, it will track me basically anywhere I go. I do use a TV. A lot of people think I do a green screen, but I don't. I use a TV, and you can see there's some motion on the TV. You see the lights are moving, and the camera's still tracking me. Why would you want to go with a tracking camera? Well, the simple reason is to keep engagement with your audience. Being able to do, if you're doing a sports show or if you're an educator, to be able to work on a whiteboard and be able to engage your audience and keep the camera shot moving. Now, one of the things that I do, I run a TC1 in the studio from NewTek, a TriCaster, and a lot of times I have to sit here in order to control it because I host and produce. So one of the things that I've done, and I'm going to talk about in a little while, is use a piece of software to bring all that together to be able to control my vMix, my TriCaster, and a few other items. And I have an old TC40, TC460 control surface here, and I know you can't see it with the lower third, so I'm going to pull it down. I have it sitting right here. As a decorative piece, it's great. I could be standing here, I could be talking. I even have an X keys underneath here. So as a solo producer and as a host, I'm able to talk on the board or show demonstrations and still be able to control my production simply by using a control surface that's linked together from a program called Central Control. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But motion control, we're walking, we're talking, I'm having the camera follow me. And one of the cool things with this camera is it integrates ways to automate your production. How does it do that? If your software solution, hardware solution, gives you the ability to use macros or anything along those lines like the TriCaster, you can essentially automate your production. And in just a few moments, I'm going to demonstrate that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk into an area that is going to allow the camera to tell the TriCaster over the network what we call a preset zone, drop my lower third. As it transitions to my outro, it's going to mute my audio, fade to black, and give me enough time to get back to my seat and go back to my shot here. And then I'll show you in the software kind of how easy that is. So what I do is I set this up right in front of my rack because, you know, nothing happens. And you see, just like that, I didn't have to do anything. I was able to walk back over here, sit back down, and normally on a production, I use this microphone, this Heil PR40. But today, because of walking around, I switch between microphones if I have to do a demonstration. So having that ability to, you know, turn off the recording, a lot of times if I was doing a broadcast, it would also shut off the recording in the TriCaster. So that way I don't really have to do anything. I can go into my post show, answer any kind of questions. and really just engage with the audience. And it's something that I really think with the Simple Track gives you a really awesome way to do your productions at a higher level. How hard is it? Well, that's a great question. If you look right here, this is the software that we have for this. You simply install the software, and if you notice, there's a bunch of colored boxes there. The green box is essentially your stage. That's basically where the camera is going to track you. And I know a lot of people ask the question, they go, well, what if there's a couple people in the shot, or, you know, how's it going to still follow you and track you? The way our testing has been and the way I've seen it is the bigger person, the taller person, it seems to stay with that person when they're in the frame. But you can set up blocking zones. Let's say you're a house of worship. You can set up that red box that I have there, where it basically tells the camera, do not track that area. So if I started to duck under the desk, the camera would stay positioned right above the area where I was walking. It will not go down lower than that. You'll also notice over my rack there in the studio, above the white monitor there is a blue box. That is my preset zone. And so that preset zone will then allow the camera to communicate with the TriCaster based on this reference point that I put in there, the IP address. And you can get this information from inside your TriCaster, basically telling you and telling it that it wants to call up the macro shot hero. Hero is what I named the macro, basically going back to, in the traditional terms of broadcasting, the hero shot. So it went through all of that to get back to this shot. So it's really simple to set up, and you can set up multiple preset zones if you're an educator, if you're single broadcaster, if you're doing sports, however you're doing it, and you're a one-man crew and you don't really have anybody to produce for you. Having those preset zones within the software is golden to be able to trigger certain things. One of the other tools that I felt is a game changer. And I want to preface this that I was using this stuff a lot before I even worked for the company here. And one of the things that I've used multiple joysticks over my time with controlling PTZ cameras. And one of the biggest hurdles that I've found is being able to queue things up. And I know we have program, we have preview, and whatever switcher we choose to use, but sometimes it's not always feasible. Sometimes we need it right out in front of us. So if you notice here, I have the Super Joy right off to my left. This is from PTZOptics. In the front here, I'm gonna pull it up a little closer here so you guys can see. Right here, I have my monitor of all the sources within it. Now the TriCaster gives me the ability to preview it, but sometimes when somebody's on camera, I can really frame this out where the preview is a little bit smaller and it's off to my left to look at it. So I can pull all these up. And this is one of the only joysticks on the market that you can have an HDMI out. And you can put this to, you know, a bigger screen. I just chose a 5-inch. But having that ability, in my opinion, is something that as a solo producer is a game changer when it comes to video production and having the ability to do some of the things that I do at a higher level. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier was a program called Central Control. And I'm going to show you that here in a few seconds. But from a guy like me, you see this and you see some of the productions, but this is kind of what I look at most of the time. This is what I'm seeing here. I'm going to pull this up in a bigger screen so you can see. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm controlling. I have my TC1 controller in front of me. And the hardest thing is to always keep eye contact to your camera. So you're always looking at your audience. So you have to find some innovational ways to create that broadcast atmosphere and be able to do some of the things that you do. So one of the things that what I've done is a friend of mine actually made this software called Central Control. And what this does is it will allow you to tie your vMix, your TriCaster, Wirecast, OBS, whatever it is that you have, PTZ control, everything, PowerPoints into one controller. And it's $50. Can't beat it. So I invested in it and I actually run it here in the studio. And that's how I was able to control the TriCaster from a separate controller, from a 460 controlling the TC1 being over by the TV here. And I have the ability with the Stream Deck, I have that set up to control the TriCaster and vMix right in front of me, because my vMix machine is clear across the studio over here. I can't really get to it. So these are some of the things that you can use to better your production and make it easier for a single person to do these extraordinary things. Anthony, any questions? That's what I got for you, man.
I have not got any questions from the audience yet. Shame on you. Oh, I did get one. Can you link Control Center again?
Central Control. Yes, it's centralcontrol.io. That's the website. And I can pull that up real quick.
Thank you, Joel. Joel is in there helping us out. And what is the zoom on the Huddlecam?
So the Huddlecam Simple Track 2 is a 20x zoom on that camera.
That's a pretty big zoom. Now, I have actually seen, you were talking about zones, and yes. I have seen zones used very effectively with cameras that aren't your primary camera too, because I have seen somebody was demoing a video where they have an overhead camera and they just put their hand on the table in a certain spot and it cues up, you know, the lower third, or it cues up a break session and stuff like that. So that is a very useful tool, is these hot spots.
And I know the TriCaster has some of that built in where you can pull up macros and trigger things, but to have your camera do it in conjunction with that is awesome, especially if you're an educator, especially we're now in this hybrid learning system in some schools. Having that ability where the teacher just needs to put their hand in a portion of the whiteboard and have it zoom into that area where they're maybe displaying an algebraic equation of some sort that an online audience needs to see, right?
All right, got a couple more questions coming in. Juan says, what is the tracking app for the camera that you're using?
The tracking app it comes with the PTZ camera. You can get it on Huddlecam HD. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I'll see if I can pull it up. You need the Huddlecam camera, the Simple Track 2, in order to use it. It doesn't work for just every camera. And you can pull cameras in there and do basic stuff.
Yeah, a follow-up question from Mike is, how far away from the Huddlecam can the talent be?
That's a great question. We've had folks use it, 30, 40 feet. We use it at our church at 55 feet, and it tracks our senior pastor as he's walking the stage. And then we put blocking zones in the front row, like I showed you with the red boxes. So if somebody gets up from the front row and has to use the restroom, check on their child, it doesn't start tracking them down the aisleway. It stays on speaker. I know you mentioned something like that in the pre area. Like, does it just jump to another person, or, is it really going to track them?
That's always the challenge. It's like, you wanted to track, but not everything. Mike writes in and says, I'm not sure I understand what Central Control IO does. And I know Central Control, and I could basically say it's basically like digital glue. And if you have a control surface that you want to control a TriCaster or a vMix or something else, Central Control is the digital glue that makes this piece work with that. So if you have an old TriCaster control surface, but you're now using vMix, you can make those two pieces work together and communicate, whereas they weren't designed to do that. Kind of like Companion. Yes, kind of like Companion, but more, I think Central Control works with more things.
Right.
Yes. ABI Trainer pops in. What's the best infrastructure design for mixing NDI, SDI, HDMI, PTZ, and ePTZ cameras when you have at least 10 or more all over the LAN area? What if you have a camera outside the LAN? That's a whole integration question. That's not like,
I was just going to say, that's a question that's not for a webinar like this. It sounds like he's got a very elaborate system. But I can tell you this, the best thing that you can do to start is to limit how many switches you're running, make sure they're gigabit, make sure you're getting an SDI router going. I mean, these are all things. I've switched over to all NDI. I do have a Kumo router in my rack of systems. I was a big fan of SDI, but with NDI and where it's gone and where it continues to go, even the camera you're seeing now, it's complete NDI. All the sources I've showed you, all NDI. I'm not using anything over SDI. It's just there for a backup.
And I guess that actually answers one of the questions that popped in. It says, can you add an NDI converter to Huddlecam? Will it still track? You have, and it did, right?
That camera, it's great right now. We have NDI built into it. You can pay for the license and you can get NDI right in the Simple Track too.
Does the Huddlecam support 4K?
It doesn't support 4K right now. It's 1080. It's 1080p 30 right now. So I'm sure down the road our engineers will put a mark on the 4K. But right now it's just 1080p 30.
All right. Robin asks, are there video learning tutorials? I don't know exactly which specific thing he might be asking about, but let's just say it's Central Control.
For Central Control, yes. The owner of Central Control, he has it on his YouTube channel where he walks you through. It's a pretty simple. You use it too, so you can say it's. I mean, it's pretty easy, but it is. If you're a single broadcaster, your own, and you have no production team, this is a tool you need in your toolbox. We use it for all of the productions that I do for PTZOptics. We do Salt Talk, and we do a few other shows that I produce and host with. This is a must in the toolbox. It's been a game changer for me and how I do things because I'm using so many tools, not just TriCaster. I'm using vMix for certain things. I'll give you an example. I have this background here. Because I have Central Control running, I have a Stream Deck in front of me, which also will allow me to do the other 8 inputs of the TC1. I can press a button and I can change my background on the TV, which is being displayed from vMix. So that's the cool part about it.
Yep. And like I said, it's sort of digital glue, and you couple that with the tracking cameras. I'm going to let everybody know I have an awesome piece of technology here. We're talking about that's going to keep us on track today. I have a kitchen timer, and is Central Control Mac friendly or PC only? I'm going to let that one come in.
That is PC only.
All right. So we have 81 people here. I am going to expand this, and I am going to scroll through our attendees. We have a giveaway. Tell us about the giveaway.
So we have the 30X PTZOptics camera. If you're wondering what that is, I'm purposely using the 30X today just so you can see the quality of it. We have that. It's NDI capable. Normally I wouldn't use it this close. I'm within 15 feet, but I did for the demonstrative purposes of this webinar so you guys could see the quality. But this is a great camera that you can use in a school, in a house of worship, or even in your studio if you need a long shot. 30X is a great option.
It is a long option, and I randomly picked Mike Fass, MikeFass. Give us a comment in the comment area. Thank everyone for your questions. Keep them coming because we have more presenters coming. Thank you, Stephen. That was a great demonstration of tracking and zones and central control.